Hello everyone, Nushan here. If you are watching this video, you know what we are going to talk about today. It's not that people are either mentally strong or mentally weak. We all possess some degree of mental strength, but there's always room for improvement. Developing mental strength is about improving your ability to regulate your emotions, manage your thoughts, and behave in a positive manner despite your circumstances. Just as there are those among us who are predisposed to develop physical strength more easily than others, mental strength seems to come more naturally to some people. There are several factors at play to determine the ease at which you develop mental strength. For example, genetics. Genes play a role in whether or not you may be more prone to mental health issues, such as mood disorders. Some people have personality traits that help them think more realistically and behave more positively by nature. Or your life experiences influence how you think about yourself, other people, and the world in general. Obviously, you can't change some of these factors. You can't erase a bad childhood. You can't help it if you are genetically predisposed to ADHD. But that doesn't mean you can't increase your mental strength. Anyone has the power to increase the mental strength by devoting time and energy on self-improvement. Watch the video until the end and get to know the things that mentally strong people don't do. We hear it all the time, think positive, but optimism alone isn't enough to help you reach your full potential. Choose behaviors based on balanced emotions and rational thinking. Think of someone who is terrified of snakes. When he sees a snake, he'll be running as fast as he could in the other direction. But before he runs away, what if he is able to balance his sheer panic with rational thoughts that remind him that there's no logical reason to feel afraid? Once his rational thinking kicks in, he can walk by the snake as long as he is in safe distance away. He can still walk past without letting the irrational fear interfere. We make our best decisions in life when we balance our emotions with rational thinking. Stop and think for a minute about how you behave when you are really angry. It's likely that you have said and done some things that you regretted later because you are basing your actions on your emotions, not logic. But making choices based on rational thinking alone also doesn't make good decisions. We are human beings, not robots. Our hearts and our heads need to work together to control our bodies. You will never become an expert at anything by simply watching a video. Athletes don't become elite competitors after reading about their sports, nor do their musicians increase their musical abilities by simply watching other performers play. They also have to practice. The following things meant help you find better ways to cope with life's challenge so you can avoid these pitfalls. It's about growing, improving, and striving to become a little better than you were yesterday. The first thing that mentally strong people won't do is they don't waste time feeling sorry for themselves. We all experience pain and sorrow in life, and although sadness is normal healthy emotion, dwelling on your sorrow and misfortune is self-destructive. Self-pity can consume you until it eventually changes your thoughts and behaviors, but you can choose to take control. Even when you can't alter your circumstances, you can alter your attitude. It's so easy to fall into the self-pity trap. As long as you feel sorry for yourself, you can delay any circumstances that will bring you face to face with your real fears, and you can avoid taking any responsibility for your actions. Feeling sorry for yourself can buy time. Instead of taking actions or moving forward, exaggerating how bad your situation is justifies why you shouldn't do anything to improve it. Sometimes self-pity becomes an act of defiance. It's almost as if we assume that something will change if we dig in our heels and remind the universe that we deserve better. But that's not how the world works. There isn't a higher being or human being for that matter who will swoop in and make sure we are all dealt a fair hand in life. The problem with feeling sorry for yourself is that it leads to new problems and can have serious consequences. It's a waste of time and requires a lot of mental energy and does nothing to change the situation. Even when you can't fix the problem, you can still make choices to cope with life's obstacle in a positive way. But feeling sorry for yourself won't move you any closer to a solution. It leads to more negative emotions. It's unlikely you will perform at your best in this state. As a result, you may experience more problems and increased failures, which will breed more feelings of self-pity. It causes you to overlook the good in your life. If 5 good things and 1 bad thing happen in a day, self-pity will cause you to focus only on the negative. When you feel sorry for yourself, you will miss out on the positive aspect of life. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Behave in a manner that makes it hard to feel sorry for yourself. Make conscious choices to celebrate life's gifts and refuse to behave in a pitiful manner. Instead of pitying yourself for what we lost, choose to feel grateful for what we had. Do something active. Physical or mental activity will help you focus on something other than your misfortune. Perform a random act of kindness. Volunteer to help a worthy cause. It will take your mind off your problems and you can feel good that you have helped support someone else. The key to changing your feelings is finding which behavior will extinguish your feelings of self-pity. Sometimes it's a process of trial and error because the same behavioral change won't work for everyone. If what you are doing right now isn't working, try something new. If you never take a step in the right direction, you will stay right where you are. The second point is they don't give away their power. A lack of emotional boundaries can be equally problematic. If you don't like the way someone treats you, yet you don't stand up for yourself, you give that person power over yourself. Anytime you don't set healthy emotional and physical boundaries for yourself, you risk giving away your power to other people. Perhaps you don't dare say no when your neighbor asks for a favor, or maybe you dread receiving a phone call from a friend who constantly complains, but you can't pick up on the first ring. Each time you say yes to something that you really don't want, you give away your power. If you don't make any attempts to get your needs met, you will give people permission to take things away from you. The problem with giving away your power is that you depend on others to regulate your feelings. When you give away your power, you become completely dependent upon other people and external circumstances to regulate your emotions. Life often becomes like a roller coaster when things are going well. You will feel good, but when your circumstances change, your thoughts, feelings, and behavior will shift. You become a victim of your own circumstances. You will become a passenger in your own life rather than a driver. You will say other people make you feel bad or force you to behave in a manner you don't like. You will blame others instead of accepting responsibility for your choices. You become highly sensitive to criticism. You lack the ability to evaluate criticism. Instead, you'll take anything anyone says to heart. You'll give much more power to other people's words than those words deserve. You lose sight of your goals. You won't be able to build the kind of life you want when you allow other people to be in control of your goals. You can't work toward your goals successfully when you give other people the power to get in your way and interfere with your progress. Reclaim your power. Without confidence in who you are, your entire self-worth may depend on how others feel about you. What if you offend people? What if they don't like you anymore? If you choose to put up healthy boundaries, you may receive some backlash. But if you have strong enough sense of self-worth, you learn that you can tolerate the repercussions. If you have spent most of your life feeling like a victim of your circumstances, it takes hard work to recognize that you have the power to choose your own path in life. The first step is to develop self-awareness by identifying when you blame external circumstances and other people for how you think, feel, and behave. Take a close look at the people you are devoting your time and energy toward. Are they the people you want to receive it? If not, you may be giving them more power than you think they deserve. Choosing to forgive someone who has hurt you, either emotionally or physically, doesn't mean you have to excuse the other person's behavior. But letting go of your anger frees you to focus your energy on a more worthwhile cause. Each second you spend expressing empathy with co-workers about how unfair your boss is, you are giving your boss more power. Resolve to stop giving people your time and energy if you don't want them to play a big role in your life. Third point is that they don't shy away from change. Although it's often easy to say you want to change, successfully making a change is hard. Our thoughts and emotions often prevent us from creating behavioral change. Even when it will improve our lives, many people shy away from making changes that can drastically improve their lives. See, any of the example I'm going to say is familiar to you. You tend to justify bad habit by convincing yourself that what you're doing isn't that bad. Whenever you attempt to make a change, you struggle to stick with it. You make excuses for why you can't change. You hesitate to do anything new because it just seems like too big of a commitment. Although circumstances can change quickly, humans often change at a much slower pace. Choosing to do something different requires you to adapt your thinking and your behavior, which will likely to bring up some uncomfortable emotions. But That doesn't mean you should shy away from change. New Year's resolutions are commonly broken because we try to make a change based on a date, not because we are really ready. And if you aren't ready to create change, you likely won't be successful at maintaining it. Even changing one small habit like deciding you'll floss your teeth every day or giving up your bedtime snack requires a certain level of commitment. The problem with shying away from your change is that it can also have serious consequences. Life can get pretty boring if you don't do anything differently. A person who simply decides to keep things as mundane and low-key as possible is unlikely to experience a rich life and might become depressed. And you won't learn new things. The world will change with or without you. Don't think that your choice not to change will prevent anyone else from embracing change. You'll risk being left in the dust if you choose to keep doing everything the same for the rest of your life. The longer you wait, the harder it gets. Do you think it's easier to quit smoking after your first cigarette or after 20 years of smoking? The longer you keep the same habits, the harder they can be to break. Sometimes people put off change until the right time. They say things like, I'll look for a new job when things calm down, or I'll worry about losing weight after the holidays. But often, the perfect time to do something never arises. The longer change gets delayed, the harder it is to do. Behave like the person you want to become if your goal is to be more outgoing. Behave in a friendly manner. If you want to be a successful salesperson, study how successful salespeople behave and then do what they do. You don't necessarily have to wait until you feel like it or until the right time comes. Start changing your behaviors now. Clearly identify the type of person you'd like to be. Then be proactive about becoming that person. So often I hear, I wish I could have more friends. Don't wait for friends to come to you. Start acting like a friendly person now and you can develop new friendships. Embracing change will make you stronger. Sometimes change results in a complete transformation that could alter the entire course of your life. Fourth point is, they don't focus on things they can't control. Keeping everything under control. It feels so safe to have everything under control, but thinking we have the power to always pull the strings can be problematic. You spend a lot of time and energy trying to prevent anything bad from happening, or assume that good luck has nothing to do with success. Instead, it's completely up to you to determine your future. You struggle to delegate tasks to other people because you don't think they'll do the job right. You don't feel comfortable asking for help. Are you guilty of any of the example I just said? We can't possibly make all our circumstances and all the people in our lives fit into the way we think things should be. When you learn to go off the details you can't control, the amount of time and energy you will be able to devote to the things you can control will give you the ability to accomplish incredible feats. We hold on to the mistaken belief that if we just try hard enough, everything will turn out the way we want. Rather than delegating a task to a co-worker or trusting a spouse to run an errand, we often choose to do it ourselves to make sure it will be done right, because we don't have trust in other people's capabilities. Attempting to control everything wastes time and energy. Worrying about things outside of your control wastes mental energy. Wishing your circumstances were different, trying to convince people they have to do everything your way, and attempting to prevent anything bad from happening is exhausting. It takes energy away from your actively problem solving and the issues you do have control over. You will unnecessarily blame yourself for everything. You can't prevent bad things from happening all the time, but if you think everything is within your control, you'll believe you are directly responsible every time life doesn't go according to your plan. Identify your fears. When you notice yourself trying to control something that you can't, ask yourself, what am I so afraid of? Do you worry someone else is going to make a bad choice? Do you worry that someone is going to go terribly wrong? Are you terrified that you won't be successful? Developing an understanding of them will help you to begin to recognize what is within your control and what is not. The fifth point is, they don't worry about pleasing everyone. Care about what other people think and you will always be their prisoner. Attempts to be a nice person can backfire when your behavior crosses over into people pleasing. It can take serious toll on all areas of your life and make it impossible to reach your goals. You can still be kind and generous person without trying to please everyone. Conflict and confrontation can be uncomfortable. And who wants to attend a family holiday gathering when their relatives are arguing? Fearing conflict, we tell ourselves, if I can make everyone happy, everything will be okay. People pleasers may also fear rejection or abandonment. If I don't make you happy or you won't like me. They thrive on praise and reassurance from others. And if they are not receiving enough positive reinforcement, they change their behavior to try to make people feel happy. The problem with people pleasing is that your assumptions aren't always true. Most of us wrongly assume that people pleasing behavior proves we are generous. But when you think about it, always trying to please people isn't a selfless act. It's actually quite self-centered. It assumes that everyone cares about your every move. It also assumes you think you have the power to control how other people feel. If you're constantly doing things to make others happy and you don't think they are appreciative of your efforts, you'll soon experience resentment. Thoughts such as, I do so much for you, but you don't do anything for me, will creep in and ultimately hurt your relationships. Avoid people pleasing. If you want to be successful at reaching your goals, you need to define your path, not just do what other people want you to do. Worrying about trying to please everyone is a waste of time. You can't control how other people feel, and the more time you spend devoting your thoughts to wondering if people will be happy, the less time you'll have to think about what really matters. It's okay for other people to feel angry or disappointed. There's no reason that people need to feel happy or pleased all the time. Everyone has the ability to cope with a wide array of feelings, and it's not your job to prevent them from feeling negative emotions. Just because someone gets mad, it doesn't necessarily mean you did anything wrong. You can't please everyone. It's impossible for everyone to be delighted by the same things, except that some people will just never be pleased, and it isn't your job to make them happy. Sixth point, they don't fear taking calculated risks. We face many risks in our lives: financial, physical, emotional, social, and business risks, to name a few. But often, people avoid taking the risk that could help them reach their full potential because they are afraid. A lack of knowledge about how to calculate risk leads to increased fear, and fear and risk often leads to avoidance. But there are steps you can take to increase your ability to calculate risk accurately, and with practice, your risk-taking skills can improve. To calculate risk, we must predict the probability that outcome of our behavior will result in either positive or negative consequences, and then measure how big of an impact those consequences will have. Too often, a risk evokes such a fear that we decide not to think about it or its consequences at all. And without understanding the potential outcomes of taking a risk, we usually end up avoiding risky ideas or dreams altogether. The truth is, most of us really don't invest much time calculating which risk to take and which risk to avoid. Instead, we base our decisions on emotions or habit. If it sounds too scary, we avoid the risk. If we are excited about possible benefits, we are more likely to overlook the risk. You should have some fear about stepping into traffic. That fear reminds you that you should look both ways before you cross the road, so you can reduce the risk that you will get hit by a car. If you didn't have any fear, you'd likely behave recklessly. The problem with fear and risk is that our fear meters aren't always reliable. They sometimes go off when we are not in an actual danger, and when we feel afraid, we tend to behave accordingly, falsely believing if it feels scary, it must be too risky. It's important to be aware of your emotion throughout the decision-making process. If you are feeling sad, you are likely to anticipate failure and avoid the risk. If you are feeling happy, you may disregard the risk and forge ahead. There is even research that shows that fear of something completely unrelated to the risk can influence your decision. Balance your emotion with logic. Don't get fooled into thinking that your anxiety level should be the factor that helps you to make the final decision about risk. Your feelings may be very unreliable. The more emotional you feel, the less logical your thoughts will be. Increase your rational thoughts about the risk you are facing to balance out your emotional reaction. Many people are terrified to fly in airplanes. Often, this fear stems from lack of control. The pilot is in control, not the passengers, and this lack of control instills fear. Many potential passengers are so afraid they choose to drive great distances instead of flying, but their decision to drive is based solely on emotion, not logic. Logic says that statistically the odds of dying in a car crash are around 1 in 5,000. While the odds of dying are closer to 1 in 11 million. If you are going to take a risk, especially one that could possibly involve your well-being, wouldn't you want the odds in your favor? However, most people choose the option that will cause them the least amount of anxiety. Pay attention to the thoughts you have about taking the risk and make sure you are basing your decision on fact, not just feelings. Most of the research shows that we are pretty bad at accurately calculating risk. Frighteningly, many of our major life decisions are based on complete irrationality. People tend to speed more when they wear their seat belts, and insurance companies discovered that increased safety features on cars actually correlated with higher accident rates. We become easily deluded when we see a potentially large payoff, even when the odds are stacked against you. If you really like the potential payoff, like in a lottery for example, you're likely to overestimate your odds of success. Increasing your mental strength isn't about simply watching this video or declaring that you are tough. Instead, it's about incorporating strategies into your life that will help you to reach your full potential, like you just need to work to maintain your physical strength. Mental strength requires ongoing maintenance, and there is always room for improvement. If your mental muscles aren't being maintained or strengthened, they'll begin to atrophy. No one is immune to making mistakes and having bad days. There will be times when your emotions get the best of you, times when you believe thoughts that aren't true, but those times will grow fewer and farther between when you're actually working to increase your mental strength.